Hey guys, Linda from Linda's Essential Science here. Okay, so here is the information that was presented to us at the doTERRA 2017 Be Essential Convention by Dr. David Hill. What a legend. That man powered through 4.5 hours on the Thursday of science information without leaving the stage once. I think the guy had 2 sips of water. It was amazing. Anyway, on the Friday, and the first day of the actual convention, he presented some really interesting quality control information on what they do testing-wise for their oils. So I thought I'd try to summarise it into a bit more lay terms, and so that you've got something that you can access available for your team members and so forth as well. So if I can share the screen. I'm going to go to the desktop. And I've just got a little bit of a presentation here, so I'll just chuck that onto the slideshow for you. So, quality control procedures, doTERRA 2017. So when doTERRA receive an oil, they get it at different stages. So the raw material is harvested and it's distilled, the essential oil is shipped to doTERRA, essential oils are bottled and labelled, and the essential oils are released for personal use. At each stage of these of doTERRA actually receiving the oils and the materials, they go through quite a lot of different testing. Now, all of that looks pretty heavy, but basically what organoleptic is just simply individuals who have great noses grabbing an oil, smelling it, and saying instantly whether they feel that there's any issues with that oil. Most adulterations, or a lot of adulterations, can simply be picked up, or dilutions can be picked up simply by a well-trained individual sniffing the oil or tasting the oil. So organoleptic is basically just meaning your senses, using your senses to sense if there's an issue. Then they use gas chromatography and mass spectroscopy. So gas chromatography is just a simple procedure where they basically turn the essential oils into a gaseous state, vaporize them, put them through a very thin tube, and which means that different components of the oil go through that tube at different times. And then they measure it at the end of it. And it's just a really nice way of getting the different chemical constitutes of the oil. Mass spectroscopy is similar in a way that they ionize the oils and they put it through a magnetic kind of field, which does a similar thing and gives it basically molecular weights. So they compare that to what they know is a true oil, and that is what gives them an understanding if there's anything adulterated or added to that. Now, they've added a new test in the last couple of years, and that's called chiral GC, chiral gas chromatography testing. And what's really interesting is a really good synthetic will come up exactly the same on GC testing. However, the chiral testing is completely different. And chiral's quite interesting. I'm really quite fascinated by it because I've gone into the chiral the chirality quite a bit because it just fascinates me. So basically, chirality is a term used to describe the three-dimensional orientation of a molecule in space. So every molecule out there has kind of a left and a right version of it. And if you sort of think about it, it basically informs in two forms distinguished either a left or the right hand. Two forms are non-superimposable mirror images. So if you've got two hands, my hands look huge there, if you've got two hands, your left and your right, you can put them on top of each other and they're a mirror image, but you cannot actually make it exactly the same. So it is actually different. So it can never line up exactly the way you want them to line up. So in order to be considered chiral, one or more of the carbon atoms within that molecule must be considered asymmetrical. Okay, so which means basically it's bonded to 4 different groups. When this occurs, a chiral atom can assume either one of the two hands, so it becomes a left or a right. Okay, so what does that mean? Even though they're basically exactly the same atom, they have really different physical limitations or physiological limitations and interactions in the body. So what I find interesting is one of the main constituents of peppermint with this menthol, it's L-menthol, it's left menthol, how it gives its peppermint smell, whereas its right is actually odorless. D-menthol is odorless, which I find very fascinating. And there's one too, a chemical constitute within both spearmint and dill, and the left version gives you the spearmint aroma, and the right version gives you the dill aroma, which I think is quite fascinating. Anyway, basically, because we know one hand is produced more predominantly in nature, it's very, very rarely 50-50%. And that 50-50 is kind of what happens when you have them synthetically. And what that means is when you test the chiral of an actual molecule, you can really tell whether that has been adulterated, because nature doesn't give you 50-50. We know the makeups of individual constitutes and individual oils. So if we're not seeing, say, 95% L-menthol in peppermint, we know that there's potentially some adulteration going on. I hope that makes some sense. So the ratio of right to left-handed constitutes can be determined through a special type of gas chromatography. Although not commonly performed on a batch-to-batch basis, this testing method can provide key insights into the purity of an essential oil by ensuring that no synthetic constitutes are present. I found that quite interesting. Okay, if we have a look at the next slide, they've also developed these arc plots. Now, arc plots are basically stands for adulteration, ranges and ratios, composition of the essential oil. And they're set out just like you can see here. But when you have an arc plot, this is Oregano's arc plot that they put together, what that basically means is any oil that you get goes into this particular arc plot. And if it fits within the shading there, then you know that it fits within Oregano's molecular and chemical makeup. This is so an arc plot basically qualifies in that one visual graph, what we talked about before. The constituents that are compared are all linked biochemically to the plant. DoTerra's created ratios that are distinct for each unique in oil's natural botanical chemistry. These are being formulated with a third-party assistance. And so as long as it fits into the shaded area of the graph, it's kind of okay. This one's an adulterated oregano. You can see that the oil that was testing failed to match the ratios in 1, 6, and 9 and 10. And that's quite important because we can tell then that there's some adulteration that's occurred. The source to you website's a really good way of testing what's going on with your oil. If you pick up any brand of oil, any doTERRA oil, you'll see a batch number on there, and that's on the bottom of the bottle. You can see it right in there. If you type that into that source to you website, it will come up with GC, mass spec, and any other tests that they may have performed on their great website to check things out as well. I think it's probably enough for the first one. There's a lot of information that I could impart, but that's a really good way of kind of giving a bit of a start to the sort of testing and the lengths that doTERRA go to ensure that the quality of the oils that you're getting are 100% therapeutic, 100% natural, with no additions or dilutions, so that they are completely safe to be ingesting and applying on the skin. Yay, doTERRA. Thanks. Please ask questions, guys, if there's anything you want to know. Cheers. Bye.